My name is Rula Salameh. As Diana mentioned, this is like a brief about my bio, but it's important for me to talk about the work that I'm doing with Just Vision. I'm Education and Outreach Director for Just Vision. So you can look at Just Vision work and see our films, and it's really great films about related to this topic. So it will be great also to see the films and return back to us if you are interested in using our films. So Just Vision did a lot of films related to nonviolence and especially about women in nonviolence. We have our film Naila and the Uprising, which is really about Palestinian women during the first Intifada, and also we have the Budrus, which is also related to women in nonviolent resistance movement and how they manage really to support men in general. When we start talking about Palestinian women in nonviolent resistance movement, we have to say that it didn't start during the first Intifada, which is in 1987. It started in 1917. It's during the British Mandate of Palestine, and women were there next to men in doing and participating in all the demonstrations, and they were also next to men in the struggle against the occupation. And maybe because of the lack of media and maybe I don't know the reasons, but you know, when people are under occupation, the main and the focus and the main focus is to resist the occupation. And this is why some of the really great stories about great Palestinian women who manage really to work with women, to empower with women, and also to educate women in different places in cities, villages and refugee camps. They also did a great job, but they did not really write about their stories. We have a little information about these women, but also it's great stories, and other Palestinian women later and other Palestinian organizations start in late 80s, beginning of 90s to document these stories and write about these great women. And of course, there is a lot of places where women really played a great role, but I will focus on in my presentation now about women during the first Intifada, which starts in 1987 and continue until 1993. So women were taking really the lead in different activities. They were in next to men in different ways. So you know, as you know, and as maybe some of you visited Palestine and they know the situation on the ground and how difficult it is here, especially to live under the occupation and to move from place to another, from Jerusalem to the West Bank, and also to go and see the situation in Gaza. It's really very, very difficult. So women during the first Intifada, because it was totally non-violent Intifada, which is non-violent uprising, women were next to men in organizing for demonstrations and also in spreading the leaflets, which is the leaflets is always contain a lot of information about the activities every month. So women also, because the focus was men, so the soldiers, the Israeli soldiers, did not really at that time use to search women and see if they are having like leaflets inside their pockets or they are hiding leaflets. So women played a big role during that period. And also Palestinian women are mostly educated, especially in the cities and then the villages and the refugee camps. So the educated women starts working with other women inside the villages and the refugee camps, educate them, talk about the resisting the occupation, talk about how they should be really active in their community and teach other women to participate. So each community have their own group of women who really are doing a lot of great work within their community. You know, not all the women, especially in the refugee camps and the villages, can go to the university at that time. Some of them really managed to go, but others, because of the economic situation, because sometimes it's really hard to go outside the refugee camp, to go to school and to go to universities. Some of these women really managed to do a lot of great work within their community, teach others, also educate the community about how they can support men in their work, how women can be really a great supporter, especially in things that they can do, which is if we can say about the first Intifada and the role of women at that time, spreading the leaflets to different communities and take the leaflets outside their community. Even sometimes their checkpoints, they can move from a village to another or from a village to a city and carry these things. Also, women played a great role in protecting the kids from the Israeli soldiers and preventing the soldiers from arresting the young children or the activists who were doing really great work in closing the entrances of the villages and the refugee camps to prevent the Israeli bulldozers from entering and attacking the villages and the refugee camps. So they were like collecting the stones and put the stones next to the young men who were closing the roads. Also, when there's like a curfew, it was much easier for women to walk from place to another and carry the food, medicine to people who need it. And sometimes the soldiers will allow the women to move, but not men, of course, because the main focus is to arrest the men who were really active within the community. So women did a lot of great work, and also the way how they organize their community, the way how they have their committees who are responsible for different things. Like when school, there was a decision, Israeli decision to close the Palestinian schools, so kids were stuck inside their homes, they can't leave. Also, there is curfew in the refugee camp or a village. So then there's a committee who can take care of the education, work with the mothers, and also educate the children and do these lessons for them so they can't really miss their classes. Also, this was really great because sometimes under the curfew, because there was always curfew during the period of the first Intifada. And my focus is about the first Intifada because it wasn't really documented before. Now, these days, in the last maybe 10, 15 years, a lot of people return back to the first Intifada to document it. And also many writers start to write about lessons learned from the first Intifada, because it was totally non-violent and it was really men and women were together in different levels. And also we can say that a lot of really grassroots leaders who came after that, who came lately after the first Intifada, they learned a lot of lessons and they practiced the non-violent resistance movement and activities during the first Intifada. And after that, they start establishing their own organizations to talk and to teach about a non-violent resistance movement. And this is where I want also to link what I talked about to Just Vision Films and our films. I was the Palestinian producer for Naila and the Uprising. As Diana mentioned, this film is about Naila Ayesh, who was a Palestinian activist during the first Intifada. And with other women, Naila managed to help men and be on the front lines of the leadership of the first Intifada, and also to talk about and to explain to women how she can empower them, how they can be really well educated in politics, how they can support their husbands and other men in the community, and what they can do to support Palestine and to help the other Palestinians and to get the freedom. This film is a really great film to watch, and this can give you a lot of great stories about great women who were a little bit like they did not like their stories did not really make it to other films than our film. Like there was really few films, short films about women during the Intifada and what they did and how they were arrested and how they were treated by the Israeli police and the soldiers when they were in different demonstrations, when they were arrested inside the Israeli prison. And you will hear that Palestinians from different communities came and they really stayed in the same prison, and how they were supporting each other, because many Palestinian women were arrested during that period, and after the first Intifada, and during the first Intifada, and before the first Intifada, and they really managed to educate other Palestinian and young women who were arrested after that. So a lot of really these lessons Palestinian women learn other generation inside the prisons, and also when they were released, also they were talking to their community about these lessons and about their stories. And Naila and the Uprising is one of these films who really highlight many stories about what happened to the Palestinian women inside Israeli jails, and how they were supporting other men, and how their community also support them when they were released after that. So and also the other film, which is really very important, also it talks about the Palestinian resistance movement, especially the non-violent resistance movement, is Budrus, which is about a story about a village called Budrus in the Ramallah district, and how the community get together, men and women, and they start the resisting movement in this village to at least to be together, and because the Israelis were building the separation wall, and they came together to prevent the Israeli bulldozers from building the separation wall. And this means that they will lose really a lot, like a big piece of their land. And most of the people there, the population in Budrus, they are farmers, they are depending on their lands. So after they all get together, they manage to protect their land from the Israelis to take it or confiscate it. So there's a lot of stories about Palestinian women, and I can say that if the Palestinian population, women are 50% of the Palestinian population, and this is why it's important really to talk to them, educate them, work with them, empower them, and see how they can really be a big supporter to men. And in many cases, like Palestinian men were like leaders in their community, especially within the during the first Intifada. And then the men were arrested, and then women have to take this role and be like on the front lines and be the leaders of the first Intifada, and tour from place to another. Sometimes they have to hide in the mountains. Sometimes they have to protect other young men who the Israelis put them on this wanted list. So what they did, really, we have plenty of stories about the Palestinian women and the nonviolent resistance movement. And I can say, I mean, the reason behind that, why women decide to participate in a nonviolent resistance movement, because it's nonviolent. Because I mean, here in Palestine, women can't carry weapons. They feel that you know, they want to do something which is not really too dangerous for them and for their family members. This is why some of the Palestinians decide to do a lot of or participate in a lot of demonstrations, non-violent demonstrations, because they felt that this is really suits them, suits their body, suits them, because within their community sometimes it's a little bit hard to explain to their family members, to their community, that they are using non-violent resistance, but they are not really using really violence and arm resistance, because they link the arm resistance with mostly with men, not with women. So during the period of the first Intifada, I was lucky to work with in a press office. And this press office was really like kind of like VIP press office that brings different leaders from the first Intifada, from leaders from the Palestinian community together. And I was like watching some Palestinian females leaders coming to these events, talking to the other men and explaining to them the situation on the ground, because they were like really the one who are collecting stories and evidence from the ground, and they will come and share it. And some of these really women, great women, they were also part of the negotiation team later when the Palestinian Authority decide to start negotiation with the Israelis in Oslo and Madrid. So some of these women really were part of the Madrid Palestinian delegation, and they were really active within the community. They were they have really very powerful personal stories, how they really were in prison, they were active, they were arrested, they were inside even the Israeli prison. They were talking to different women, helping them to understand the situation, supporting them, because not all the women always, when they have been when they have been in prison or arrested by the Israeli, they have the experience. Some of these women are young, they were in school at that time, and they do not have experience in politics. They do not have experience in how they can maybe understand the situation inside the prison, how they can answer some of the questions of the Israelis when the intelligence, when they ask them or investigate them. So these women used to be like their mothers, close to them, explain to them the situation, treat them as their daughters, and also really take care of their of them inside the Israeli prisons. This is like some of the stories that we managed to collect while we were doing our films, Budrus and Naila and the Uprising. We heard different stories from different women, from different political parties. You know, most of these women, I can say not all of them, most of them, they are part of political parties. Inside the prison, they all are together, even if they are in from different political parties. Maybe these political parties are not really so close to each other, but for the Palestinian prisoners, men and women, when they are inside a Israeli prison, they are always get together, they talk together, they explain to each other the situation, they support each other. So this is what happened also for women when they were arrested. They said many times that they are really together. They are explaining to each other what they should do inside the prison, how they can divide the work together, how they can educate others and talk about their experience, so other and the young generation who are inside the Israeli prison can understand the situation, can get to know more stories, can get to know how they can protect themselves, especially inside the prison when they are in the investigation phase. So a lot of stories that we get to hear. These stories are really kind of like new for us. As a Palestinian journalist, the stories that I get to hear while we were interviewing these women, some of these stories, it was for me, it was the first time to hear. It was the first time to know that Palestinian women from a village or from an isolated village or from a refugee camp or from this city managed to do that and managed to support men in her community. They were talking about their experience. They were talking how really they were so excited and they were really happy that they are managed to be in this level and managed to be really leaders to support their community and to resist the occupation. So it's the stories that we were getting from these women. We did not find these stories in books or in articles, really very little articles or books or even documentaries when we start searching and doing our research for Naila and the Uprising, and before that for Budrus, our film. We didn't really get a lot of information from the books or articles about women in Palestine and resisting the occupation or the non-violent resistance movement in Palestine that includes men and women. We heard different stories about men, but we didn't hear a lot of stories about women at that time. So there is a lot of Palestinian directors and directors of movies. Now they are searching for these women. There's a lot of even departments inside the Palestinian universities. They are thinking to do something and to document leaders from the first intifada. And I can say men and women. They are talking about men and women, not of course women alone. So, and what was really unique at that time when we decide to interview these women, that when we start interviewing men and women, most of men, when we interviewed them, they were talking and sharing a lot of stories about Palestinian women and how they really take the lead and how they used to be leaders within the community and how they replace Palestinian men when men were arrested. And I think living under the Israeli occupation for like many years, this really give the Palestinian men and women maybe the power to change things on the ground. We can't accept the occupation, and we can't accept to live under the occupation. And this is why we decide first, we see that a big number, a big percentage of Palestinian women now they are educated. They are the majority in the Palestinian universities. They are the majority in leading the Palestinian organizations, the non-government organizations, and they are really leading the community in many ways. I don't want to say in politics because we do not see them really very a big number of Palestinian females in politics, because the situation on the ground is really very hard and very complicated even for women to be part of. And also the occupation are running after politicians here in my country. So you can see Palestinians trying to be in politics. They are really getting their education, also skills to try to lead their community. And I think step by step, we will see them in really high levels in the Palestinian Authority and in the Palestinian resistance movement in general here in Palestine. But in general, I'm really very proud to be a Palestinian, very proud that I have a lot of friends and colleagues and also people that we interviewed in our films. And some of them, they didn't make it to these films, but they have great stories that always I really insist in talking to different Palestinian organizations and explaining to them the importance of documenting these stories. Even it's not in documentary films, but at least in a story, in books, in like written materials, so also the young generation can read about these stories and can take them as their heroes and follow their steps, because I think it's important. If we do not really write about our history, if we do not document our history, I don't think that we will be able to share it with the new generation. And we should really take them as our heroes, because what they did in the last 70 years is a lot of stories. On the other hand, I have to say that maybe my experience is only as Rula is only about Palestinian women inside Palestine, but also we should not really ignore the work of the Palestinian females, males and females outside Palestine in different places around the world where Palestinians have forced to leave their country. And also there's a lot of really powerful stories about Palestinian men and women who really manage to educate their community in the diaspora and talk about the Palestinian stories, the Palestinian history, explain to the young generation about the 48, about the 67, about the first intifada, about the second intifada, about the situation on the ground, about the occupation, about the daily life of the Palestinian under occupation here in Palestine. And maybe as a Palestinian who lived in Jerusalem and who was born and lived in Jerusalem all my life, I can say that there's a lot of stories here about Palestinians in Jerusalem and what they are facing, and about the occupation, and about how Israel is treating Palestinians in general, not only in the West Bank and Gaza, but also in Jerusalem. That here in Jerusalem, always, every day, you will hear about demolishing houses. You will hear about Palestinians who are losing their jobs. You are hearing about Palestinians who are the Israelis arrest them for really for posting anything on Facebook, for writing articles which about the occupation and what the occupation are doing to the Palestinians here on the ground. If you write about anything now, especially these days, you will be arrested. You will be under administrative detention. You will be questioned many times. Maybe they will prevent us from traveling. And many Palestinians, even young children who have been arrested in the last 4 or 5 years, they arrest them because they were like participate in a demonstration, or they were in a place where like some people like use at least participate in a demonstration or a sit-in against different Israeli orders. Many Palestinian children have been arrested because of nothing, because they are Palestinians, because they were in a place where like demonstrations, or like because they were in the old city and they think that these young children throw stones. So many Palestinian children have been deported from Jerusalem. They send them to the West Bank with their family because they are not allowed, let's say, for 2 months or for 3 months or 6 months to be in Jerusalem or to attend their school. So all these stories, it's really hard to talk about everything now, but yani, if we really have time, there is a lot of really stories about the community and how the community are treated by the Israelis. You know that we are not allowed, if a Palestinian husband, let's say a man from Jerusalem want to marry a Palestinian from the West Bank. This is like really a very complicated story, because we are not allowed to bring anybody from the West Bank or to bring them to Jerusalem. They can't live in Jerusalem. We have to apply for the Israeli Ministry of Interior for them. So you have to go in this very complicated process for sometimes 10 years, 15 years, until they give the person from the West Bank like kind of like a permit to come to Jerusalem. Sometimes not even to stay overnight, just to come for during the day. It's very complicated stories that you will find. Thousands of Palestinian families are now divided. Some of the family members are living in Jerusalem. The other family members are in the West Bank. They see themselves like sometimes once a week or twice a week. The father, if he have a West Bank ID, can't stay overnight in Jerusalem. The mother, if she leave, the wife, if she leave Jerusalem and stay in the West Bank, she will lose her Israeli IDs. It's a very complicated things that Palestinians are living every day. But of course, like it's like thousands of stories that I can share if we'll have time. But the focus is the Palestinians, the Palestinian women and the nonviolent resistance movement, and how they are doing and what they are doing. And I can say that there is a lot of great models, that really great for filmmakers to highlight their stories, because we want them to be heroes, so people and the young generation can follow their steps. I'll stop here and see if we'll have questions. Maybe I need Yana to be with me.
Yes, I'm back. As I mentioned earlier, if you have any questions for Rula, if you could pop them in the chat box, and we will get through as many as possible. We've already got quite a few coming in, which is very good. Again, I'll highlight that there are some topics that Rula is not able to speak on because, well, it's very restricted out there, so I'm sure you'll understand. So you touched on this, but I think it's interesting to go deeper in this. This is a question from Ronald Mendel. He says he's got a comment and a question, but he's been very kind and given us a little comment. It is great to hear about non-violent resistance in the occupied territories. I agree. It always reminds me of, like, you know, in the States, they had Rosie the Riveter, you know, this female figure who stepped in during the times when they were needed. Question from Ronald. What are the prospects for a revitalization of that tradition, the tradition of nonviolent resistance, in light of the repression being carried out by the far-right Israeli government, which conducts nightly raids, detains thousands of Palestinians, and disseminates guns to settlers? How can we get people back on the track of nonviolent resistance over other options?
Thank you for the question. I think it's really very important questions, because also we are struggling in finding ways of answering your questions, because this is also our question. We don't know what we should do. Yani, the thing that when you believe in nonviolence, you can't easily just get rid of what you believe in. And we worked really so hard with different groups here in the West Bank and Jerusalem, and explaining to them the power of nonviolence and how we can reach the international community, and how we can also teach our kids that. But to be honest, sometimes you feel that we felt, especially the last few years, with the settlers attacking Palestinians and also attacking Palestinian farmers and killing them, and with the settlers, with this government who easily for them was so easy to give the settlers the weapons, and you can see the weapons with the settlers everywhere. It's really hard to return back and explain to people. It will take time, especially that with the young generation, when they see their fathers and their mothers have been arrested or killed by the settlers, or have been arrested by the Israeli soldiers, and the way how the Israelis used violence against their parents and against the father and against men in general. I think you can see this now. We have a lot of problems inside the Palestinian schools, where kids are trying to use violence against the other kids inside the schools. And this is something you see it also, you practice it. We practice it here when we have people, families return back to us and asking for support, because men are using violence. Men who really, like when the soldiers attack a house, or they really treat men on the checkpoints really badly. I think this violence stay inside people, and when they return back home, they can't really be normal people using normal languages with their kids and with their family members. They will use violence, and this is like, I can see this in the street. Like, really, people can't handle the situation anymore, and even the way how they treat each other, in a violent way. You can see this. It will take time. It will take time, because we are not talking about like violence from the Israeli side that stopped. We are talking about like a daily stories coming out from different places about soldiers, about the way how they search men and women in the checkpoints, the way how they attack schools and prevent the students from entering their schools, from taking their classes. It will take time, but I know that we have a lot to do with our community. And also, this is like a message to the international community, because they are watching us. They are seeing what's going on in Palestine. They see how the Israelis are using violence against Palestinians and how they are arresting kids and children everywhere. They see how the violence in everywhere, the settlers who, and I think you all know about and heard about Hawara, this small village in the Nablus area where the settlers burned the houses and the cars. I was there at when this happened, and I was stuck between the settlers and between the soldiers, and I don't know what to do at the time. يعني alhamdulillah, thanks God that I managed to leave after maybe 4 hours. But other Palestinians were watching the settlers with their weapons, with all the violence and the sticks they have with them, and how they are attacking their homes. This is really hard. If people are under the occupation, I don't think that you always can talk about nonviolent, but this is something that we have and to continue also practicing this with our family members, with our kids, because we don't want the new generation to pay the price of using violence. And the settlers, I think nobody can stop the settlers until we will have maybe a new government in Israel, or the international community really put pressure on the Israeli government, first towards the soldiers and the police who are using violence, and then on the other hand, the settlers who really are really using violence. I'll just mention something here about the olive harvest season. You know that during every year during October and November, the Palestinian farmers pick the olives. And you know, some Palestinians are really depending the whole year for after they collect the olives, after selling the olives and the olive oil. This year, only 1/3 of the Palestinian farmers managed to collect the olives because the settlers were there. They were killing a lot of Palestinian farmers, and the other farmers were really afraid in going to their lands and collecting the olives. So now they are living without any support, and the situation, the economic situation is bad. And you can imagine, like thousands of Palestinian farmers now, they lost the season because of the settlers.
Thank you so much for that answer. I've got a couple of comments that I want to pass on to you because they're lovely and insightful. From Najia Saeed, she just says, God bless you and assist you, dear Rula. That's from all of us because you are doing amazing work. I've shared the Just Vision link in the chat box, and as always, I'll be sending an email out with the links to the recording and Just Vision as well, so you can read more about the films that Rula was involved in and Just Vision were involved in. And then from Samia Houri, who's a comments on the situation a lot. I'm sure you know her in Jerusalem. She says the Intifada was non-violent, but Israel turned it into a violent one because they wanted to justify their own violence. So those are just two comments I wanted to pass on to you. I've got a question from Anthony Valion. I hope I'm saying your name right. Apologies if I'm not. Do people hold out hope that the ICJ case on the occupation, if it rules it illegal in a few months' time, will boost prospects to end the oppression and give a greater voice to Palestinian views?
I'm afraid of that. I don't know if Israel really will accept anything. You know, all the international community and the big countries are trying to at least telling the Israelis to stop, not to stop even, not like, they are not asking even for ceasefire, but at least like not to kill civilians, not to attack hospitals, not to bomb hospitals. And Israel in a situation that sees herself is like #1 in the world. They can do what they want. Nobody will question them or stop them. Yani, we are waiting to hear, but we are not really thinking that this way will really prevent the Israeli government from using the violence and stop them from using using the violence and the killing. You know, We have been under the Israeli occupation for 75 years. Here in Jerusalem, we are facing a lot of problems. We met with different delegations, groups, VIP people, and we were talking with the human rights institutions, with the human rights activists, and we have been explaining to them the situation on the ground, killing the children, attacking homes, burning the homes, and the settlers, what they are doing. And we did not see things on the ground have been changed, to be honest. Relax. What I can say on the other hand, that we see and we practice the last 5-6 years more violence from the Israeli side. This government with Netanyahu is using a lot of violence against the Palestinians. They don't want to see Palestinians here. They are really pushing the Palestinians out of Jerusalem. They are trying now to push the Palestinians even out from the West Bank or Gaza. I personally, I want to trust the international community, but from what I see and practice, from traveling to different countries and seeing people are with us. I know that especially the last few months, I can see the people, different people around the world, they are with us. They are in like daily participate in different demonstrations. They are supporting the Palestinians. But I mean, the leaders, they are not. Every time when we feel that something will happen, the United States will use the veto, and then everything will just return back even worse than before. So I hope that we will get something out. But to be honest, with what I see here, my feeling is nothing will be changed on the ground.
We've got a bunch of very supportive comments coming in. I will be sharing the chat box with Rula afterwards, so she'll see all your comments. So please do keep on posting. If you don't have a question, post your comments of support and so forth, because it means a lot. For example, we've got Paul Hughes Smith. He used to be my neighbor and is a dear friend. Tell Rula that West London PSC are showing boycott at Act One Cinema in Acton on Monday, 15th of April. Paul,
Okay.
send us the details. Send me the details so that I can share that on our mailing list, because we showed it as well, and it's such a good film. So we will be very, very happy to include that in one of our email lists. So send me the details, Paul. So we've got, for example, from Gael Poncelet, thank you so much for documenting all the incredible stories of women. I'm very thankful for you for producing Naila and the Uprising, as it impacted my friends and I very deeply. So lots of messages like that coming in. I've got a question from Douglas Murray. He says, if a large number of women gather and sit down in protest on a street, what do the Israeli authorities usually do? And does it normally result in injuries or fatalities when it is a non-violent protest? How do the Israelis obtain intelligence with regard to the non-violent resistance? And what do the Palestinian police and security do to protect non-violent protesting women against the Israeli military?
Yes, this is like kind of like 3 questions. And I will start with, even if the Israelis will see Palestinian women sitting and like in a peaceful demonstration asking for anything, like even peacefully without doing anything, they will attack us. And this is something. On the other hand, we are not allowed to ask for permission for any demonstration in, let's say, Jerusalem. Let's say I want to do a demonstration for like anything peacefully, just to sit inside like in Salah ad-Din Street in the old city of Jerusalem, in any place, and do this sit-in or a demonstration, peaceful demonstration. We will not get a permit. If we do not get a permit, easily they will come and attack us, and they will have the soldiers, the police with riding the horses. And this happened many, many times, that the police who are riding the horses, they will just enter inside the demonstration, and they will start like really carrying the women from their heads and using violence with the stick and beating them. And after that, after they film the demonstration, after that they will start calling one by one and they will question us, and we will be in trouble that, okay, if you will participate in another demonstration, we will prevent you from staying in Jerusalem, we will prevent you from traveling, and then they will start treating us. And on the other hand, what Palestinian women can do in the street, like if we want to participate in a demonstration, it's much easier for us to go to the West Bank and participate in a demonstration in like center of Ramallah or Nablus or Bethlehem. If we participate in a demonstration there asking for our rights, asking for the Palestinian Authority, let's say, to let's say stop the negotiation with the Israelis or the cooperation or anything, if we have the we don't there's no need to ask for a permit, we can go there and participate in a demonstration. But also on the other hand, if we'll start really, if they see that this is a big one, maybe we will be like, they will stop us or prevent us from let's say walking in the streets. In some cases, yes, if there's a demonstration against the Palestinian Authority for any reason, yes, the Palestinian police will use violence against the Palestinians. I can say that they will not really start shooting us. We will be beaten, or like they will prevent us from stopping in a place or walking in different places or streets. To pretend that we are blocking the streets, but also they will use violence and they will start like beating us. But if we can't compare between the occupation and between our personally, I do not feel that I can compare between how the Israeli police and the soldiers treating us and how the Palestinian Authority are treating us. We can, it's a big difference. Of course, they are using violence here and there, but the soldiers, the Israeli police, the soldiers will start like beating us. They will question us. They will use tear gas. And if it's not in the center of Jerusalem, they will start using the weapon, like they can, like the live bullet, they will use it. But normally, in the last few years, we are not able to get any permit to participate in a demonstration in Jerusalem for any reason, So it's really hard to talk about the situation in Jerusalem. Especially, I can say that, like for journalists, for writers, for activists, we will be questioned different times about our role, what we are doing, if we are getting support from any organization, if the Palestinian Authority are supporting us. And every time you will do something, they will say, okay, these activities are supported by the Palestinian Authority, and within Oslo, you are not allowed to do anything funded or supported by the Palestinian Authority. Even if we are a private organization or an NGO, and we do not get any fund from the Palestinian Authority, of course, we are not getting any fund, but they will prevent us under these reasons.
Thank you for that. We're getting loads of messages coming in, loads of messages of support and saying, yes, the people are with you, despite what our government is saying and doing, etc., etc. I've got a question, well, a few different questions on this topic. So I'll take the one from Ana Jimeno Cristobal. Again, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong. Do you receive any help, support, collaboration from Jewish women and Jewish women's groups?
After Oslo Agreement, after 1993, there was a lot of really active organizations who are doing a lot of like joint meetings, like Palestinian women organization are meeting with Israeli women organizations. They participate in different meetings, in different demonstrations. They used to support each other. Of course, I can say this wasn't really accepted by the Palestinian people in general, because they see that we should not live a normal life under occupation, and they are not really our neighbors. If they are our neighbors, they should push their government towards ending the occupation and towards treating us in a different way and towards not arresting our sons and our daughters. So there's like like few organizations from the Palestinian side who believe that we should talk to the Israelis, men and women, and work with them, explain to them the situation on the ground in Palestine and how we live under the Israeli occupation. And this is to educate them about the situation, because the Israeli media are not covering anything related to how Palestinians are living under the Israeli occupation in Jerusalem or the West Bank. There's others who believe that we should not meet with them at all until they push their government to end the occupation, and they should really have the power to change things within their community. And the last maybe 10 years or more, we have really a government inside Israel where they really do not want to see cooperation between Israelis and Palestinians. They stop funding, they prevent any funds from the international community to the Israeli organizations, and also they stop issuing permits for Palestinians to enter to Israel or to Jerusalem to meet with Israelis. I personally do not feel that it's really the timing is really a good timing to meet, but I can say that maybe after Oslo I met with different groups and I was talking to different Israeli groups, and Israeli women explained to them the situation on the ground in Palestine, especially inside the refugee camps, and they were shocked. They have no idea about the Palestinians and how we live inside refugee camps and how we live in the West Bank. And they were like listening to us and asking a lot of questions. And this is why I felt that it's important to talk to them and explain to them about the situation here. But of course, recently it's really, really hard. And the Palestinian people do not accept any meetings, and they will start even really running after the organizations who have these kind of like joint projects between Israelis and Palestinians.
Thank you for that answer. We've got just a message of support from Kenneth Ramsey. The people of Glasgow march every Saturday in support of your struggle. This happens up and down the country. But I wanted to mention that one because I have a friend who goes regularly and sends me photos. And so I'm very grateful to the people of Glasgow. And he ask that everyone raise awareness with anyone who's not aware, as our media are complicit in the overall cover-up of what is happening. So you can do things like sharing this webinar, for example. And also, Tanya Nufal reminds me that she says, thank you very, very much for your hard work. Stay strong. Best wishes for all Palestinian women on Mother's Day today, which it is in Palestine. So thank you so much for speaking about this topic on this day, which feels very, very important. I've got one quite depressing question, and then I'll end with our hopeful question. I try to end with a little bit of hope. It's getting harder and harder, but I do try. So the question I have from Una Ellis, do you feel let down by the rest of the world?
Do I feel?
Feel let down, disappointed by the rest of the world?
I can say from the high levels, from the presidents and from the government, but not from the people. I can say that I'm so proud. I mean, I was watching the news kind of like every day. This is part of my life. And you can't imagine when I see that there is a big demonstration, support Palestinians in London, in different places in UK, in the United States, in Europe. I can see, like, my feeling is that there is still people who believe in justice and they are supporting Palestinians. Give me the energy to continue the work that we are doing, and also to feel that one day we will have one person from these people who will be the president, and things will be changed. And I think it's important, Diana, to mention here that we need your voice always. We need you always to talk about Palestine, the Palestinians. We need your help and support. I mean, it's unfair to live under occupation all our life. I was born under occupation, and my son was born under the Israeli occupation, and still we are living here. And every day, we are listening to the news. Always there's demolishing houses, killing, arresting people. There is no good news here. The good news only the only good news is that when we see the international world, when we see that people in different demonstrations are supporting Palestine and Palestinians, and they are raising the Palestinian flag, this means that we are still alive with the support of people around the world.
Yeah, I totally understand that, because as a Jerusalemite, Palestinian Jerusalemite myself, before the webinar started, I was telling you how I was in Palestine and went out to visit family on the 7th of October, which was very unfortunate timing. And, you know, everyone was back home, back here in the UK, was asking, how are you going to get home? Are you getting home? When are you coming back? You know, are you able to get back? And to be honest, me and my father didn't want to come back because we were hearing all of the statements from Keir and Rishi Sunak, and they didn't make us feel welcome here and supported as, you know, well, I'm British citizen of a different heritage. And it was only when we started seeing the demonstrations by the people that we were like, okay, reminded that it is the leaders are, I'm going to say it, personal opinion, terrible, but the people on the ground, like you say, they do care about justice, and what's happening is unforgivable on so many levels. So on that note, I just want to make a little plea. We've got loads of messages coming in about different groups you can get involved in. Check out in your local area, there's probably a regular demonstration or a PSC group or a Women in Black group or something, because loads of people are sending you Rula messages of what they're doing on the ground here to try to raise awareness. And we at the Balfour Project are trying very, very hard to spread the word and to keep this information, to keep this topic in the spotlight. We hold these webinars for free, so we would very, very much appreciate if anyone can support our work financially. So if you could consider a donation, I have popped a donation link in the chat box. If you want to sign up to become a friend of the Balfour Project, then what that involves is signing up for a regular monthly donation of any amount, and then you become a friend of the Balfour Project, which means that you get access to occasional, well, quarterly friends meetings with different key members in the Balfour Project to get some insight of what's going on behind the scenes with the Balfour Project, give your feedback on our work, etc., etc. You get free and discounted tickets to our paid events, like our film screenings and like our upcoming conference. So on the 6th of June, we are going to be having a conference on at Bush House in London. It will be hybrid, so don't worry if you're not London based, or if you prefer to attend conferences at home on your sofa in your pajama. I know I normally do. The topic is Peace with Justice, How to Get There. It will be in partnership with the History faculty at King's College London. So we will be sharing that as soon as the date is 100% confirmed. And we'll start announcing speakers as well. So do keep an eye out. If you are a friend of the Balfour Project, or if you sign up as a friend before the conference, you will get a discounted ticket as well. So that link to become a friend is also in the chat box. So that's enough of me begging on behalf of the charity. I'm going to try to end on a positive note with a question about what we can do. This is another one from Anthony Valian. He's coming with loads of good questions. What can people from outside the region do to help, and in particular to help restore hope?
Yes, so of course, it's very important to get your voices with us and to write to your congressman or the parliament or senators or the leaders in your area to really now to ask for ceasefire and to push for ceasefire for our people in Gaza, and also to help us to get the story out, to participate in different demonstrations or sit-in. Really, we want to see more people out in the street for Palestine and Palestinians. And I think what we are seeing now is really, really help us a lot to see that we are not isolated from the world. People are with us, especially people around the world. Like I can see the demonstrations here and there. This really give us hope that one day we will be free, and we will welcome you all to come to free Palestine and to see us in our country and to meet here. And I think it's important also to share on Facebook, on like YouTube, on the social media, anything related to Palestine. We want more people to get engaged with Palestine and with the Palestinians. And of course, I have to say thank you so much for all the welcoming words and for the supporting words and for everything you are doing, not only for Palestine, for justice in the world, because I think we need justice. We want to see justice here. So Amjad, thank you so much for everything you are doing.
We've had a few comments and speaking to people back in Palestine. If you know anyone back home, back in Palestine, then do reach out, check in on them, send them photos of the demonstrations. Things like that it really does boost morale. I have avoided during this webinar questions on the two-state solution purposefully, because we have a webinar coming up on the 16th of April with Sir Vincent Fien, who's former Consul General of Jerusalem and trustee of the Balfour Project, specifically on the two-state solution, what price the two-state solution. So it's a topic that gets raised in the Q&A session every time. So we thought, let's have a webinar specifically dedicated to that. So I've popped a link to that in the chat box as well. But again, we will be sending emails out. So don't worry if sometimes the links in the Zoom chat box are not clickable for some people, and I haven't figured out why. So all of those links will be sent out in an email. Again, loads more messages coming in. Thanking you, Rula, for speaking and for the work you're doing. Loads of messages of disappointment in the UK government. So I will share all of those with you, Rula. I want to thank everyone for coming along to this webinar, for being so engaged with the Q&A session. I really appreciate that. And Rula, thank you so much again for all the work you're doing, for coming and speaking to us. And we really, really appreciate it. So we will see everyone hopefully at the next webinar. Thank you very much and have a lovely rest of the day, everyone.
Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you, Diana.
Bye.